Welcome back everybody, my name is Chris Patrick and today is video number 4 of our multi-video series on how to get into RC racing, and today we are discussing how to build or rebuild or inspect box stocks, whichever it is. So new, box stock, used, whatever it is, these are the tools and some things that I would suggest you look for while you're building or rebuilding or inspecting a new box stock car. So let me get you closer to the workbench and I will explain a little bit about some of these basic tools that you're going to want and also some things to look for. So let's get started. Now that we brought you closer to the workbench, this is pretty much all you're going to need to be able to build or work on basic stuff for any RC car. And what I mean by that is you're going to need, we're going to start with the hand tools first. So you're going to need some form of setup tools, which you're going to need a ride height gauge, and you're going to need a camber gauge. There is a toe gauge out there. You can go that route if that's the route you want to go with. I don't have one out here, but I do own one. Those are some of the setup tools that you're going to need. I don't care of the manufacturer. I will tell you, if your budget allows it, go with some of the aluminum ones. They're a lot more user-friendly. I feel like they're a lot more accurate. I know J Concepts and ProTech make really good versions, and this is a ride height gauge, and the reason why I like them so much is you put them under the chassis and it rides automatically, so you can make your adjustments and watch this go up and down automatically, where this one you have to manually go and twist and tilt it until it barely touches the chassis, tighten it down and pull it out and check it. So this works fine and dandy. I used one of these for years, but I did upgrade to the aluminum version, and it is a lot more user-friendly and a lot more easier to use, in my opinion. Next step is going to be tools, like hand tools. This is a very opinionated subject, and I'm going to tell you there's about 4 or 5 different ways you can go about doing this. You can go the really cheap route and buy some basic Allen wrenches, or you can buy a kit like this, which is a 6-in-1 system, and it stores inside, so it's easy to transport. It all fits inside this. I used this for the longest time, and I still use these tools in my workbench. There is more than one manufacturer that makes these. I just like the Team Associated version, but I've owned the EcoPower and this version, and I think there's just a bunch on like Amazon. You can go those routes. Be warned that these Allen wrenches, these Allen heads, are not the same quality as some of the higher end tools that are out on the market. And they will strip screws and bolts, mainly your screw heads on your Allen wrenches, trying to get some of these off. So you may round some fasteners, or you may not get some old fasteners out on a used rig using something like this. And I've worn these out. You can see the wear and tear on these tips. They still work, but occasionally I run into some issues with getting some fasteners out using this kit. I highly suggest going the MIP route. And the reason why, these are machined fasteners, or the tolerances are a lot tighter, and this is machine steel, so they hold up a lot better to abuse when it comes to getting things on and off. But also, these 95% of the time will get a bolt, a screw or whatever that is stuck because this one rounded it out. These will get it. It has to do with the tolerances and how these are machined and made. These are also made in the United States. They do not have a lifetime warranty on them. A lot of people think MIP does do lifetime warranty. They do not. But this is the kit that I would suggest. You're going to need a 0.5. You're going to that's not in metric, that is standard. You're going to need a 1.5, you're going to need a 2, and you're going to need a 2.5. That's the 4 you're going to need when it comes to this. I do not own any of their nut drivers. I use these nut drivers, and these are 7 millimeters for the large one and 5.5 for the small one. These come in handy because you may eventually down the road decide to upgrade to an electronic screwdriver system of some sort. I use this all the time with these bits, and it does 90% of my work for me. This is a lot easier, just to back out or tighten the screw. Now the key to this is don't over tighten them, so I barely hold on to this. I'll hit the button, and as it tightens, it'll spin in my hand. That's how I know it's tight. You'll figure that out the more you use it. As a new person, you do not need this. It is a luxury item that I am showing you because that's the advantage of going this route or a similar version of this, is you can start with the hand version, get yourself familiarized this route, and then upgrade to the electronic driver, and you're still using these bits. That's what I did. I hope that makes sense. Then you're going to need a turnbuckle wrench. This is an MIP turnbuckle wrench, and pay attention to the size because they do offer different sizes. So like this is 3.25 millimeters. Every manufacturer has a different size, and the most common ones from what I understand are the 3.25, which is this one, and I think it's 3.7 or 3.9, and it fits TLRs. Those are the two most popular common sizes that I have seen. If you get a new kit from like Team Associated, they will include this basic turnbuckle wrench, and it does the same thing. It is just very inconvenient because of how small and how lack of contact that you get with this particular tool. Again, this will work. It is just not ideal, which is why people make that version. You're going to need some small pliers of some sort to hold on to some small tools. It's always a plus. This is a big pet peeve of mine. I don't think you need it, but these are flush cutters. It's common in the 3D printer world. You get these for free when you buy printers a lot of times, or at least you used to. But when you buy a chassis, especially a new one, and your molds are plastic injected molds and they have the little tabs that stick off of them, you want to get in there and trim off those tabs off of the part, and it allows you to be safer. I've seen people cut themselves trying to work on their cars because they have little plastic like triangles off of, like, for example, let me see if I can, so like here's a prime example. I don't know if this camera will catch it. Come on, camera, focus. Focus. There we go. So you can see this little tiny tab sticking off here. And a lot of times it's not that bad, but some of these plastics are really tough. So you're going to take your flush cuts, go up in there, and you're going to trim that out, and then you're going to make it nice and smooth. And it'll protect your fingers from rubbing. Like, this is what they're for, is what I cut off. You can see this little tab. That's part of the injection molding process. And a lot of times these will stick up like at a triangle, and they'll jab you. They won't like make you bleed, but they do hurt. So that is what I try to use these side cuts for. Again, you don't have to have the flush cuts. I think that that is a small bonus tool. They're not very expensive. You can get them on Amazon for probably $5 to $10. You're going to need some double-sided tape. Do not skimp on the quality of double-sided tape. Make sure it is Scotch or 3M branded double-sided tape, or from a reputable manufacturer in the RC world, because this is what holds down your electronic speed controller, and some of them are $200+. You do not want this coming loose in your chassis. You will go through these quite frequently, so you will need some. You're going to need a soldering iron of some sort. This just happens to be my ancient soldering station that I own. You don't have to go that route. They make a pen version that is portable, that plugs into a USB-C port. They work amazing. You can get them for probably $30, $40, $50 on Amazon and some other places. Hobby grade versions of these are going to be $50 to $100. Whatever works for you. I'm not going to go down that on this video. That is a future video on how to solder and all that fun stuff, but just know you do need a solder station or gun that is going to get you high enough temperatures, and the reason why you are going to need it is because you're going to have to solder your electronic speed controller to your motor, and you're also going to need a battery. So that's where your soldering station or soldering gun is going to come into play. Actually, we'll cover these two tools next. You're going to need a set of curved at minimum, but I would suggest a curve and a straight. I call them body scissors, but they are, I want to maybe polycarbonate the plastic on your bodies. Do not use regular shears like this. They will cut it, but they don't cut correctly, and they end up micro cracking as you cut. I'm telling you, invest in just a cheap pair. Whatever the cheapest things you can find will do you just fine. These are probably $10 or less. But this will save you from when you go to start trimming your bodies to make it fit. These are a lifesaver. I promise you, worth their weight in gold. And then some picks. You don't have to go crazy. These are Harbor Freight specials from, or I think these are Pittsburgh's from Harbor Freight. They're come in a set of 4 or 5. I like the orange handled ones because they're a little bit easier to grip. They do sell all kinds of different versions out there. You can get them on eBay. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them even through your A-Main or any of your hobby stores. They should all sell a basic set of picks. You never know when you're going to need them. I use them quite frequently working on small parts, so that is something I would suggest you pick up. These are probably less than $5. They're very, very, very inexpensive, but they do the job. Other than that, and you're going to need your electronics. Preferably, you don't have to have your electronics today to be able to put your car together, just like you don't need the soldering station today, but you will need most of these tools to build. Technically, you wouldn't need this or this. You just need these to actually set it up, to build and set up your car correctly. You're going to want a low profile, high speed steering servo of your choice. I personally recommend going with a metal geared version. The plastic versions will not last. You will break them, I promise you. You hit a cone or a pylon or a parked car, and you're probably going to snap this in one of your very first events, and you're going to be very frustrated because then you can't do anything because you just broke your steering servo that you just bought. So if you don't go with the metal version, and what I mean by metal version is the insides, the gears of these are actual metal. A lot of them are plastic, so make sure you pay attention to the manufacturer and the listings and make sure it says metal gears, and that's the internals of that. And then you're going to need a motor. a brushless motor that fits the specs of your class. So whatever that is, I don't know what version, what class you're running, but make sure the motor that you are buying does fit the class that you plan to run. And these are brushless motors. Nothing crazy about these. You're gonna need when you buy a brand new speed controller, it's gonna come with everything you need to connect it. But these run on A, B, and C frequency from the electronic speed controller, and then they have also a sensor wire that plugs into a port, which is here, that runs into the back of your electronic speed controller, which is right there. Little ribbon cable. And this is your speed controller. And this does everything that you need when it comes to controlling your battery voltage to your motor. That's why it's called an electronic speed controller. And lastly, you're going to need a radio and a receiver for that. I don't have one of these out here to show you. But again, you don't have to have the electronics to build a car. Let me clear all of this off, and I want to show you what a kit looks like so you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into if you decide to go the new route. So let me clear this off and I'll be right back. So if you decide to go the brand new route and you get yourself a chassis of your choice, whatever it is, this happens to be an old DR10 from Team Associated that I have not done anything with it, but I just want you to know kind of how they're prepackaged, how they come, so you're not overwhelmed, because there is a lot of stuff happening inside this box and people don't realize it, and then they get overwhelmed really quickly. So I'm trying to alleviate some stress that you may have. Now, what is different from Team Associated from some other manufacturers? I don't know. I personally have never built a TLR car. I've seen their manuals, and I personally don't like their manuals when it comes to how they operate, comparably speaking to how Team Associated does theirs. But anyhow, kind of rambling. But just giving you a heads up, not all manufacturers are the same, but this gives you an idea. So first things first, you are going to get a manual. This is your friend. This manual should walk you through, and unfortunately this has been around the block, so it's got some stains and stuff on it, but it's going to tell you. It's going to give you a list of all of the parts. This is all the hardware that comes in the kit with the values. So like, for example, a 3x12 millimeter, and it gives you a part number, and it gives you the titanium part number if you decide that you want to upgrade something to titanium. I don't suggest it for anybody that's new, but if you want to go that route and spend money, go for it. This is valuable information for any of the chassis that you have. And these are very, very detailed, very specific. But the key to this is bag 1, step 1, bag 1, step 2, bag 1, step 3. They make this very simple. So bag 2, step 1, bag 3, step 1. It goes based on bags. And there's probably 30 pages. Yep. But realistically, there's only 17, 18 pages of actual build instructions on this particular kit. At the very back of the kit, it's going to give you some tips. It's going to give you some basic motor gearing guide information. It's going to tell you how to set your mesh on your gears. It's going to tell you how to set your slipper clutch. It's going to tell you how to set your ride heights. It's going to tell you how to check your front camber. It's going to tell you how to check your rear camber, your camber links and how they adjust, Ackerman and how it affects your car. All of these are setup things that you will need to learn later, but you can learn them now while you're building. This gives you basic detailed I'm using basic and detailed at the same time. It gives you basic information to understand the importance and how it affects your car and how to adjust it. It doesn't tell you why, it just tells you how. Then the very back is going to give you some more detailed breakdowns of part numbers for replacement parts for your shocks, shock fluids, differential information, transmission breakdowns. So these are, in my opinion, very vital information when it comes to buying replacement parts. So for example, if I break, I need to rebuild my diff, then I know that I want, for example, new bearings or new balls and new discs. So I just order these two parts, for example. That's very common, but they give you part breakdown schematics of all of it through the whole thing. That's, again, something that I know that Associated does very, very well with their kits. On all kits that they sell, is they come with a user manual. This is vital. But like I was telling you, they come pre-bagged. So you look for a bag. So for example, this is labeled bag 10. So we don't start here. Bag 11, bag 12, again, don't need those. So you're looking to start, you're gonna look for bag 1. So bag 13, there's bag 2, bag 9, you get the idea. So yes, there's a ton of parts, a ton of pieces, but at the end of the day, you can build one of these, and realistically, I would not expect you to have this done very quickly, but I would say realistically a week. I would say like an hour or two a day, you probably can have this done in a week. And I'm being very generous. If I had to bet, I could probably build a whole kit in one day. Realistically. But I've also built a ton of kits. So that is built. Oh, I didn't put everything back. That is building a brand new kit from the ground up. That is this. You decide to go a box stock route, and you want to check out a box, and you buy a brand new car. There's a reason why I'm showing you this. Let me get all this unboxed and I'll be right back. Okay, you've decided to go the brand new box stock route. Disassemble it, take it apart, inspect it, visually look at it, check the car out, make sure everything is kosher, make sure everything looks fine, throw your battery in it, fire it up, and check. The reason why I'm having you do this, watch this. Brand new, never seen the track. Ready? I don't know if you see that. I can. Just to show you this side. That's not bad. It's a four-wheel drive car. Back corner again. Just to show you. That will cause you nothing but issues on a track. And again, brand new, right out of the box. That wheel's bent. So I had to contact Lowe's, send them video evidence, explain to them the situation, and they sent me replacement tires and wheels for all four of them because they sell them in a pack of 4. The box stock kits are great to get you into the hobby because usually they're relatively inexpensive systems, and unfortunately a lot of these box stocks, on why I'm not a fan of them, is because they have very limited options on setup changes and so forth. But to get you into the hobby and to make some laps, this is the quickest, simplest, and easiest way to make laps. Just know you may not be very competitive racing a box stock car, but stuff like that is what you have to pay attention to when you're doing your inspections on a car, because if you don't catch that bent wheel and you do go and race it, and let's say you race it, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, and then you finally discover it, there's a high probability that they're not going to warranty those tires and wheels, because they're going to tell you that you used it and that it's beat up and that it's normal wear and tear, and they're going to deny that warranty claim. So before you do anything, do a full inspection of the vehicle that you purchased. Make sure everything looks fine and that you don't miss something like that, because that tire is going to do nothing but wobble, which then will cause the car to bounce the entire time it's going down the track, and that will cause an upset car, which then means it's not going to handle correctly on the track. So now let's bring you back to the used car and we'll talk about those. I'll be right back. If you go the used route, I know we've talked about it in the past, but I want to talk about it again today. Take it all apart. Take every shock off. Set them aside. Check to make sure that your front arms move freely up and down. Not with the shock on here, but actual arm. Check the arm. Make sure that they move free. Oh, I did forget a tool earlier. I would also suggest a relatively inexpensive dial caliper. You don't have to have this to build a car, but I do suggest it because you can take measurements of these lengths, the links here, and take that measurement, make sure that both sides are the same. That does affect it, but in oval racing, a lot of times what's on the left doesn't match the right, but in the off-road world, you want these to be exactly the same. So depending on like road racing and off-road, I could see where this becomes a bigger minute detail than off-road people or oval people. But anyhow, tear it apart, take the shocks off, check, make sure everything moves freely. I mean everything. Check to make sure that the steering is not bound. Check to make sure that the bearings on the hubs are all good. Check to make sure that there's no cracks on any of your A-arms. Check your front shock towers. Pull them, check them, inspect them. I can't stress to you enough the importance of doing a visual inspection of this vehicle from front to back. If it's got fluids in it, I would suggest you replace the fluids so you know what's in it. I don't care what fluid you put in it. It doesn't matter. You could put 100 weight shock fluids in these shocks for all I care. Bad idea, but my point is, when you do this, you also write down what you're doing so you have a reference point. So if you ask me for help and I say, well, what's your shock fluids at? And you say, I don't know, then my response is, how do you expect me to help you if you don't know what you're running? Go try this. And we'll start with that. And that's where knowing the detailed information about your car is very important when it comes to building said car. I hope that makes sense. But again, check everything. Check your diff, take your transmission apart, get your differential out. I would suggest you rebuild it while you have it out. A rebuild kit for the differentials is probably $25-30. Cheap insurance, but you know it's built and you know how it's built. If it's a gear diff, you don't really have to do a whole lot to them, but I would still suggest you take it apart, clean it, inspect it, relube it, and put it back together. You don't have to buy a kit at that point, but at least you know what's actually in that differential, and then you're going to mark it down on your setup sheets. That is the very, very important information I can't stress to you enough if you go the used route. Is always check everything. Before you get to the track, you should have gone through this entire thing from start to finish. And if you have all of your electronics in it, check your electronics to make sure you have steering. When you turn left, so if you turn left on your steering, your actual steering turns left. You'll be amazed. Some people may have this backwards, where if you hit left, your car turns right. It's very easy to do. It's just a simple setup change on your radio. This does not go to this car, but I'm just using this as the example. Check to make sure you're getting 100% throttle. And there's going to be a light icon on your speed controller, and it should be solid green if you have 100% throttle, which means you have to turn it on. You're going to need a battery. You're going to need your motor hooked up. And when you give it full throttle, make sure you're hitting full throttle on your radio, and make sure that you're getting a solid green light. If you're not getting a solid green light, then that means you are not at 100% throttle. Then obviously you're going to need a battery charger and a battery and everything else. That's a whole another video. I'm just trying to get you in the mindset of that's what you're going to need for a used car, and the expectations of used versus new when it comes to physically building a car. So now I want to bring you to the computer. So let me clear my bench off, and we're going to do some video capturing of my computer so you can see exactly what's going on. What I'm about to share with you now is online, and you can start here and either download it and do the paper copy version or do the digital version. But what I would suggest, whatever chassis and car you build and that you are racing, I don't care if it's a box stock class, I don't care if it's used, I don't care if it's new, I don't care what chassis manufacturer, I don't care what chassis it is, I don't care what class you're running. You should be doing this from the very beginning of anything you plan to do if you plan to race. Is go online and search the manufacturer and chassis of your choice and look for what's called a setup sheet. And it should be blank. So for example, Team Associated B 6.4 setup sheet. And that is the used chassis that you just seen. This is what you're looking for. You're looking for an editable PDF. And I've already covered this before, I believe, in another video, but I'm going to explain it again. You should fill this out all the way from top to bottom every time you work on your car. And you should be adding notes somewhere. You can put the notes up top, if that's where you want to put your notes. You can put the notes down low, like vehicle comments down here, or in the section that says notes. And this is going to give you all of your detailed information on where each spacer is designed for this chassis, and where you mount your shock towers on the arms and the tower, or the shock post, I should say, on the A-arms and the upper towers, your links for your tie rods. All of this is important information. It all means something. So the reason why I suggest you fill this out as you're rebuilding your car, and you can also build it to the stock specifications that the manufacturer has built it, but then you also have a reference point. That's the key to this. It gets you in the habit of filling one of these out as you're building or rebuilding your chassis, so you know what you're looking for. And then when I ask, or somebody that you're asking for help ask, hey, what's your hub heights at? Well, if you say I don't know, then I'm like, go get your car and bring it to me, and I'm going to go look at, for example, these axle height spaces, because this is your hub. I'm going to look to see how high or how low this hub is. And I'm going to tell you, change it so that, for example, if you're only running one down here and two up here, I may tell you flip them, so you want two at the bottom and one up top. That's the importance of these PDFs. So, for example, hub height, like if this is only one at the bottom, you just select one. It's that simple. Bill crank position, up or down, very simple. A, B, or C for your mounts. So let's just say you're in the middle. So you go B, and then you're in the middle up top. Well, not going to let me select it. You can zoom in and select it, but you get the idea. Inside or outside for your ball spacing stud mount for the inside. Let's go with outside. And then all of this, very basic, very simple, very quick. These are all easy things. And then you're going to say, once you have it all built, then you can go down the notes and say, this car sucks and won't turn on corners. And save it. Any information you put down here. Or this car is great, handles fantastic, but again, you're going to want to make sure that your surface information matches because this all matters. So let's say it's a small dirt, medium traction, dry, indoor, ambient temperature. Let's say it's 60 degrees because it's cold. Track temp might be 45 degrees because it's cold. Whatever. This all matters. And this is data for you to comprehend. So you may go back to the same track in June. Let's say you go, so I'm using the barn as the example, which is where I race indoors. And it is heated, but it's not heated great. So they usually keep it around 60, 65 degrees of ambient temperature. But it is an indoor barn. And it is on the ground. So the track temp is whatever the ground temp is. I wouldn't say outside because it is a little bit warmer, but it's still cold. When it gets really cold outside, the track temps drop. Track temps affect what tire compound you run and affects the tires that you run. So that's why a lot of this information matters. So you may go back out there in June and race the same track. That ambient temperature for ground temp might be 75 degrees. Well, you're probably not going to run the same tire that you was running when it was 40 degrees versus 75, 80, 90 degrees. Or if it's outdoor, it might be 100 degrees. Again, all of this matters. Fill it out from top to bottom. Should take you 20, 30 minutes, tops. The more you do it, the quicker and easier this becomes because you're going to realize a lot of this stuff doesn't change. You're making very minimal changes once you get to the point where your car is stable, but yet you're still trying to find some extra speed. Then you may be changing, for example, a ride height 1 millimeter, or your total ride height. You may be changing and you might be lowering it 1 millimeter, for example. Very minimal changes, but it does matter. And that's why I'm trying to get you in the habit of filling one of these out every time you make a race and every time you go to a race and every time you work on your car and you make a change, update this, make some laps and say, and add it in the notes. Like, hey, I went from a 25 millimeter ride height to a 20 millimeter ride height, and my car won't turn, but it did before. So then that means you need to go back to 25 or raise it to 20, let's say 23. Whatever. Like the more information you put on here, the better off you're going to be when it comes to being successful. I hope this makes sense to you as a new person. Now, again, if you're new, I don't expect you to be fast, and understand that. That is just one of those things that takes repetitive time. But if your car is not set consistently every time you put it on the track, I don't care how many times you be repetitive on the track when it comes to putting your car on the track, your car's going to handle every time you put the car on the track and try to make a lap, it's going to handle differently if you don't set it up correctly every time. So I'm not telling you what you need to do yet. I'm just telling you fill this out. Because this will help you understand things later because this is all data. And data is why you are making laps on the track. It helps. Trust me, I'm not trying to pound this in your head to understand that it's not important because it is. but it's not important on the very first day you go to a track. The biggest thing is just having fun and just making laps. But this gets you in the mindset of racing, which is something that becomes a more advanced feature. And if you learn to do it on day 1, it becomes easier on day 5. It becomes a lot easier on day 10, and it becomes natural on day 30. And that's why I stress this. Okay, I'm rambling. I feel like we've covered a good amount of topics today. So we're going to wrap this video up. I appreciate you all for coming out. Hopefully you've learned some things and have taken away some basic information and know kind of what tools to look for, what not to look for, and where you need to be at for setting yourself up for success on building your very first car, or if you've already bought your first car that was used and you want to make it successful on the track. With that, I will see you guys later. I appreciate each and every one of you. Later, guys.